Do you want to be a statistic or find a way to change the trajectory of your life? My guest, Lindsay Jepperson, shares her inspiring story of overcoming insurmountable obstacles. Hi, Lindsay. Thank you so much for being my guest again on my Choose Courage podcast. I love interviewing you, and now we have more to talk about. So, welcome.
Thank you.
I'm so excited about your new chapter. There's always new chapters in life, but you have had many, and no pun intended, but you are now an author.
Yes, it's pretty exciting. It's finally here after years of in the making.
Yes, well, tell me more about your book and your journey in writing this book.
Yeah, so my book is called Adjusting Your Cells, Anchoring to God Through the Storms of Life.
Actually,
Yeah, there it
that's
is.
what it looks like right there.
Yeah, and I've been writing it for about over 10 years. So I write my goals in present tense. So I've been writing in my journal, I am a published author. I am a published author. And now I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm a published author. Like it's here. So about a year ago, I finally just decided it was time to really just do the work and dive in and get my book done. And so I did. And with the help of a lot of amazing people, I was able to get my book completed. And now it's out in the world and just so excited to see where God takes it.
Oh, that's so wonderful. What an amazing story and journey. And how does it feel to be an author and this dream and this affirmation in present time that you created a long time ago? And this, it probably seemed like a big, huge mountain to climb when you first started it. What's the journey been like? Were there times where you felt like I can't do this. I don't deserve this.
Yeah,
What was
lots of those
why? What kept you
feelings.
going? Yeah.
Well, what I set a goal for is that I would write 100 words a day when I started writing my book over last summer. And so my basal was just that I would write 100 words. Some days it was 1,000 words. Some days it was just barely 100 words. And it was just really diving into that promise that I made to myself and actually doing the things that I said I was going to do. I knew the world needed to hear my story. And so just that drive behind it was that one person I was going to help with my story. I wanted to just share it with anybody and everybody, but I also just wanted to find that one person that just said me too and just needed to hear parts of my story. And that's what kept me going on the days that it was really hard. It's a lot of a process, you understand as an author,
Mhm.
but the outcome is so much better than the work that it has been. Like it's so rewarding. And I personally just feel like I can take on anything. I've overcome a lot in my life, but now I'm like, oh, if I can do this, I can do anything.
Lindsay, that's amazing. That's amazing. I mean, this was a huge accomplishment, and you now feel like because you did this, which was hard work, but you had a reason to do it that was motivating you. But now it's inspired you to feel like if I can write a book and share my story and to help other people, I can do anything. So anybody listening out there, I felt the same about when I wrote a book. And there's so many people that have stories out there that can impact the world. And Lindsay's stories is amazing. And she's going to impact so many people by her story. And Lindsay, I want you to tell the audience a little bit about your story. But anybody out there listening right now, there's many avenues to share your story to make an impact. It could be a book, it could be speaking, it could be anything, videos. So there's a lot of ways to get your story out there, and we all have stories. So tell us a little bit about this book, which is so amazing. And what I love about your book is you have some empty spaces and pages inside where people can write down what their thoughts are about what you're explaining to them, some of the steps that they can take. And it's adjusting yourselves, anchoring to God in the storms of life. So tell me how this title started and
Yeah, so I have always had an obsession with sailboats and I've always had an obsession with goal setting. Ever since I was younger, I just had big affirmations for life and all of that. But those of you that have set big goals and accomplished big goals, it doesn't happen in the big things. It's the little tiny pivots that you make. And changing the anchor and, dropping the anchor and doing different things that help you change your trajectory of your life. And so my story is of abuse, overcoming. I'm a high school dropout, and now I have a master's degree, recovery from drugs, and heroin use. Being a part of the system, being in foster care. And one of the biggest things about my story is that I'm not a statistic. I could be so many things, and I'm not. I've overcome all those obstacles, but you can too. And that's why I left that blank space in there, because I want that call to action for you to maybe tell your own story in a way and have that beginning step for you to be able to look at all of what you've lived through in your own story and think, oh man, I could help some person if I shared this part of it. And just like Terry said, there's so many avenues of sharing. I just wanted somewhere in the book for somebody to be able to take some time to journal a little bit, have a little bit of time to process what they've been reading, and have that ability to just kind of share their own story.
I love it. It's so important. It really is important to understand we all have stories and that, you've grown and you've learned from your stories, and not all of our stories have to define us. And we have good stories. We have stories that we're not proud of, but we can learn and grow from everything that's happened in our life. And we're not alone. I think the more we share our stories, then other people out there feel like, oh, I'm not alone out there. People are very similar. We're all here to learn and grow. And I think that's what you are also saying, that everyone's story has some meaning, and maybe it's more meaningful than you think it is. But taking this time to read your book and reflect on your life and where you've come from, how you got here today, and where you want to go, I think is important. And you're such an inspiration. Your story of overcoming so many things that most people don't survive.
Yeah.
And what just struck me is when you said, I did not become a statistic. The hairs on my arm stood up when you said that. And I've heard you say this before, but this is the first time it really hit me hard right here in present time. Do you really want to be a statistic out there? You don't have to be. And that's what Lindsay's book is telling you. You don't have to be. You can dig deep, you can ask for help, and a higher power, God, whatever it is for you,
Mhm.
that there's something more, a greater, bigger than yourself that you can tap into, but you can also do the work that's necessary. Is there anything more about that, Lindsay, that you want to share, as far as what it takes to overcome
Yeah, I mean,
adversity
I
and
think
not
it
be a
takes
statistic?
yeah, it takes a lot of work. I'm not going to say it's been an easy course and things like that. I have gotten professional help. See a psychiatrist. I take medication. I do all the things that continue to make me grow and to overcome the obstacles that I have in my way. But I also take those steps daily to do the things that are hard and not be a statistic. One of the biggest things that me and my husband have really wanted was for our family just to not have to live through what me and him had to go through, and not have my children overcome the things that we had to overcome. And I think every parent has that as a goal. And in the very front of my book, I shout out to my kids and my husband, but I think it's pretty amazing when I look back and I walk into the door of my home and I see that I've created this, and that my husband and I have created a place where it's safe, where my kids know that they're loved and they're supported and things like that. So I think it's just those daily things of just making a choice. And that is, I think, at the end of the day, my book's biggest message is it's those daily choices, and it's that pivot of, do I want to keep doing this every single day, or do I want to change my trajectory? And so it's just making those daily choices to not be a statistic and not be the one that keeps the cycle going.
Yes, I love that. And I also really like what you're saying about it doesn't have to be this huge, big change, that it's just small, little, subtle decisions that you can make in a day. A little pivot can make a big difference to change your direction. And I think of some people feel like, oh, there's just too much I have to overcome. I can't change. I'm just going to stay the way I am, and that's the way it's going to be. But what you're saying is that you can make a choice, a decision that I don't want to be like this. I don't want my life. And some things are not your choice. Some things were not your choice growing up that happened to you and were people that are listening. But you still have a choice every day on how you want to react, and maybe ask for help and get yourself out of that situation, even if you didn't cause it, right?
Yes. Yes. Amen.
Yeah, so it's a kind of an interesting thing, but I love that it can be just a little teeny step. Make a decision first of all that you don't want to be like this. You don't want this life that either you've created or someone else has created for you, and that you can choose to make a difference, and a little bit of a step can change the whole direction of your life. And that's what you did, but you did it every single day. You didn't give up. Once you decided, you never gave up.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it takes courage. Just like we've talked about your books, it takes courage to become that person and to make that choice every day. But again, which one do you choose? Which life do you want to choose? The one of, growth and life and love and joy and all those things? Or do you want to live in hardship the rest of your life? You have to make that choice every day of what you want to live with.
Yes. Yes, and that's a big, big thing. And you're giving hope to all these people that are going to read your book that felt like there was no hope. And your story to me is one of the most incredible stories I've ever read, because you didn't have to overcome just one adversity, many adversities. That
Yeah.
most people with that kind of trauma in their life, it's very difficult to get over. And I know it's a lifelong thing, but you took every advantage of every kind of help that you could possibly get, and you're living the life that you want to live, and you made that choice. And now you have the family that you didn't, or the family style or whatever that you wanted and didn't have in your
Yeah.
life. And you created that. So in the end, you created what you didn't have.
Yep.
And that's a beautiful thing.
Yes.
So what kind of like how can people get a hold of your book, and what kind of people should be reading this book? Everyone?
Yeah, I think everyone and my hope is that the people that read it will share it and share it along the way. You can find it on Amazon, you can find it on Kindle now. But again, my hope is that you would read it, you would get something personally for yourself, but again, that you would share that message with somebody else, and it'd be a book that you said, "Oh, I read this and this part really helped me. I think you should read this," and giving it to somebody else. You can find me on social media, on Instagram and on Facebook under Adjusting Your Cells Book. But yes, I just want to, again, my whole thing was to help the one person. I've had a huge opportunity, lots of text messages, lots of reviews, lots of people getting back to me, and I've already heard the Me Too. So I just can't wait to see where it continues to go and the people that I help, and that hopefully they can just change their trajectory and adjust their cells.
You're a warrior. You really are. And you're such an inspiration to so many people by sharing your story. And I know that doing this is a work from the heart, and that it's a vulnerable thing to share your story. And I know how hard that can be. And by you sharing your vulnerability and your story and overcoming adversity, you're going to impact so many lives. So I want everyone to read this book. And do you want to leave the audience with one thing that they can do today, or they can learn from your book by reading it?
I think my biggest call to action is just be honest with yourself,
Mhm.
where you're really at and where you really want to go. I think sometimes it's really hard when I was in the midst of my drug use and things like that. It's really hard to say I'm an addict. It's really hard to
Mhm.
say I'm an alcoholic. It's really hard to say that I am creating this cycle of chaos. So I think just being honest with yourself and just changing one thing. Maybe it's not going back to that bar. Maybe it's not picking up that cigarette. Maybe it's something different, maybe it's sitting down and holding your child instead of scrolling on your phone. There's so many things. So I think just evaluating and being super honest with yourself of what that pivot looks like.
That is an amazing, amazing advice. First of all, you have to look and see what's really happening and be really honest with what's happening in your life. And that's a hard confront for
Yep.
many, many people. Like, they don't want to admit that their life is not what they want it to be. But then, like you said, like they just take a little step away from in the direction you want to go. Just a small step. I mean, just putting down your phone. I mean, that's a simple thing. Doing something positive. And I love that. And thank you for sharing you with us, your story with us. And everyone, please, this story this story will inspire you, and you will be inspired to know that you can get through anything, almost anything in life by reading this book. So buy it today and reach out to Lindsay, and I will make sure that you have all the information that you can reach out to her if you have any questions. Read the book today. It'll change your life. Thank you,
Awesome.
Lindsay, so much for being my guest. I adore you. You are such an inspiration to everyone, everyone. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Tara. I appreciate your time.
All right. Thank you. Have a good day.
Bye.